I probably will.
Okay, so we will restart our meeting at 2:47. We'll return to our. Will we have a general manager or do we have to start all over?
Start over because
So we have to do them all again? Yes. Okay, so let's go back. Let's go to roll call, please.
Alternate Vice President De La Rosa.
Here.
Vice President Church.
here,
And President Silva.
Present. Thank you. Go on to general manager comments, please.
Comments for today, just an update on the sale of Sun Street property. We have submitted our compliance letter to HCD at the state. And that now starts the 30-day period for them to review and certify compliance, at which point, hopefully by October, we will be able to put Sun Street onto the open market for sale. The other update is our lease in the suite next door upstairs. We're in the final throes of negotiating a renewal on that contract. They have our final offer on the news. It will be a contingent lease. I say contingent on the county rehiring them. There's Geo Services that are in there, and they're a reentry service that works as a contractor for the county. And that contract, I believe, is being considered in the next couple of months. So hopefully we'll get that wrapped up and have a permanent tenant up there, and then we'll start marketing again the old suite that we were in for 201. So I have.
Thank you. So we'll go on to department manager comments and we'll start with Ray.
financing right now is in the process of finishing up the June 30th financials. As of right now, we're on track to present the ACFR to the EC at the October 1st meeting. So we look forward to doing that. Numbers as of right now look very good, with a nice increase in our net position. So that's it. Really.
Thank you. Caesar.
Just quick reminder, all employee communication dinner, Friday, 6 p.m. at the Crazy Horse. If you join us, that'd be great. All the employees, the majority of the employees will be there, actually like 98% of them.
Right.
Be a good time. Looking forward to seeing you there.
Sorry, I can't be there.
I have no comments.
Brian, nothing? Mandy, no comments. Anything? And so I'll take it out to committee members. Oh, excuse me. Let's take it out to Roy, general counsel comments.
Nothing at this time, Madam President. Thank you, though.
You, I'll committee members. I'll go to Lori.
Just the only comment, I want to remind everyone that 9/11 next week, the city, in front of City Hall, will have our ceremony starting at 9 o'clock. So we're basically like
At City. Glenn?
No problem.
Okay. And my only comment is, I think I've already shared it with everybody, but last night, the Gonzales City Council was able to vote to move our project, our Vista Lucia project forward to the powers that be, which is LAFCO. We have 2 ordinances that have to go through 1 more round of voting, but I don't see any issues. And cross our fingers that LAFCO will get it at their October meeting and we'll be able to cut the dirt in the not too distant future while I'm still alive. It's been 25 years in the making. So praying for additional housing in our neck of the woods. Public comments. Is there anyone from the public who has anything to share today that is not on today's agenda? If so, please recognize yourself. Seeing nobody running to the podium or the table, I'll take it out to Zoom. Anybody on email? I'll bring it back and move on to our items for consideration. Anybody, any of our board members have any item to hold for further discussion? If not, do I hear a motion for action? So
Check.
thank you. It's been moved and seconded that we approve these items for consideration. There's no further discussion. All in favor, say aye. Aye. Opposed? Passed unanimously.
Madam President, These items are on for consideration, not consent. So we'd have to go through them one by one.
I guess it's stuck on. Thank you. Okay, so we'll take it one by one. Item number one, the minutes of the August 6th EC meeting. Any discussion from the committee?
None.
If not, do I take it out to public comment? Is there anything on Zoom? Bring it back for action. Let's take that one.
So move.
Okay, Gloria? Glenn?
Sure. Yeah.
Thank you. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Okay, moving on to item two, July 2025 claims and financial reports.
Okay, so very early look, July, we're technically still mostly paying bills to the last fiscal year, but revenues are generally flat year over year, with the exception of 8939 fees. That is that did have some fee increases. So that's good. So we did, and last year it's around 6,000 tons. So solid waste being flat means that we're right at our revenue projections. Expenditures, everything's in line, 6.9% on total budgeted expenditure in July, which is equivalent to where we were this time last year. We do for cash balances, we do transfer $3 million out of the operating fund for the August 1st debt service, and then another 3 million plus for CIP. So it does leave our cash balances at a negative standing in July. With that we were planning over the year with profitable operations. We should be in good shape by the end of the year. Unless there's any specific questions.
Any questions from committee? Seeing none. Do we have anyone on Zoom?
No.
Seeing none, anyone here in the chambers? No. So I'll move it to the committee for action.
So moved. Second.
Thank you. It's been moved and seconded. All in favor, say aye. Aye. Opposed? None. Thank you. We'll move on to item number three. A resolution approving the grants and capital improvement projects budget for the fiscal year 2025-26. Staff report.
Okay, so this is a recurring annual item. Once we finish closing out the prior year fiscal year, we do carry over appropriations for all the capital projects. Next slide. We are requesting some adjustments to the capital improvement projects. As I mentioned last month, we did have some savings in our workers' comp budget in the current year. However, the insurance in the foreclosure funds have some increase. So we want to transfer $175,000 from the operating fund to the post-closure budgets. And kind of ramp us up. Fulham Road's the one needing most help. So when to increase Crazy Horse post-closure by 18,000, reduce Lewis Road by 62,000, and increase the Fulham Road post-closure by 220,000. That leaves the budgets where they fully pay their insurance with about 2 years of post-closure funding at each site. And then we'll start building those back up going forward. So there's an increase of 175,000 to the capital improvement coming from the operating budget. For the other funds, equipment replacement, we sold $194,000 in equipment last year, and that's been our practice to add that to the equipment replacement CIP. The waste characterization study was approved last month by the board at $400,000. We're requesting $420,000 just to allow for some staff time. Any additional costs in there. And that will be funded from fiscal year 2024-25 surplus, which right now we're estimating at about 4.1 million, which after funding this will leave us about 3.7 million to allocate to the various reserves. And the 1.1 million in Johnson Canyon module engineering, that's the $5 per ton that we set aside throughout the year to fund future module engineering. So adjustments of 1.9 million, all of them already in the fund, with the exception of $420,000, which will pull from the operating surpluses. So just real quick, so the columns, so the remaining balance is the amount that's being carried over. The approved FY 25-26 budget is the amount that we approved as part of the operating budget, which is our continual funding. The adjustments I just talked about, and then the 25-26 CIP budget, next slide. And the same for the total CIP budget, so we're, CIP budget total, and I don't have that number for me. 11 million for the capital improvement projects, and then 1.2 million for Crazy Horse, 400,000 for Lewis Road, 500,000 for Howell Road, and 340,000 for the grants. But all basic carryovers, with the exception of the adjustments that I just talked through. So unless there are any questions.
Any questions from committee? No. So if there are no questions, then I'll go out to public comment on Zoom. There's nobody here in chamber either, so we will take it for action. Thank you for supporting.
Sure.
Thank you. All in favor, say aye.
Right.
Aye. Opposed? Motion carried. Next item is a discussion on the recruitment process for the new general manager. Staff report?
Yeah, so, we did approve the contract, sometime Georgia, so the contract's been executed. And we wanted to start the discussion with executive committee by just first going over, the schedule of activities. And we'll have a brief conversation with this session as well on this. So, Erica, you got the schedule?
So just the schedule of the week.
The one that's on page D3. It's based on the contract. So, this month, we're in month one, and the first three actions really that the consultant was going to start with is one, having stakeholder meetings. That means meetings with all of you. And particularly the executive committee, since will be sort of in charge of leading the process itself. I think you've been through this, Gloria. So I remember you sitting in the front row. And so that'll take a couple of weeks. Likely it'll just be done via Zoom or phone calls with each of you. Get your feedback on things like, what are you looking for? There'll be some discussions around development of salary schedules, benefits, structure of the contract, those kind of things. So they're going to want to get that information to their papers, so they can compile the brochure, which is really sort of the last piece that they'll do this month is develop their marketing materials, prepare the brochure after they've gotten feedback from all the board members, and then begin placing ads in the beginning of October. October, month two, obviously they'll be distributing the brochure. They'll be doing a social media outreach campaign to try to get information out about the opening, and then doing targeted outreach to other clients, or other peer professional organizations like SWANA and other groups where they'll have more interest in this position. So month three, that would be November. They'll be reviewing by then applications will be coming in. They'll begin reviewing resumes and applications. And the plan, as it was the last time it was done, is the consultant themselves, Bob Murray and Associates, will do interviews of all the qualified candidates, and they will provide the board with a short list of candidates for board interviews. Then, of course, they'll do background checks, public records requests, and then finally making a final presentation of the candidates to the board for selection. So with that, the intent is that it would be complete with client interviews, background checks and all that for a final selection by the board. And then we can decide, and this will be something will be done in conjunction with the consultant being here, is do you want them to negotiate the contract? Do you want the board to negotiate it? There's some pieces at the end of the process that you may decide you want to do in-house, or you may want to use the consultant for. So that's a quick overview of the schedule. This takes us out to hiring hopefully in December.
Thank you. Any comments from committee?
I got a few, I'm a little concerned about the calendar, the scheduling. Because we're gonna be doing interviews and then making a decision in month 4. That's December. We meet in December or no?
We do.
We do.
It's optional sometimes, some years we don't.
So-
Not a lot.
So what day do we, what day are we scheduled to meet? Which one?
December 18th.
December 18th. So, because the one I'm concerned here with, if you start getting to the first interviews and the second interviews, and then you're doing negotiations and appointment, we're doing this for the holiday period. And I'm not sure how that's gonna impact candidates, how it's gonna impact whatever committee we have going here. And how we're, gonna do this on the initial interviews. I'm not sure on this particular board if it's a committee of the board that does it, or if it's the full board does some interviews, or how we'll go about doing it. The board's got to approve it anyway. Eventually, it's got to come to the board. So, and you're leaving when?
19th.
When?
19th.
Of December? And we're meeting on the 18th, so I should work out just fine. Yeah.
Well, we'll just pretend it's on vacation.
Anyway, I'm concerned with what I'm seeing right there. I just doing a lot of things. And that month's period is really difficult, especially you get close to Christmas, it gets a lot more difficult.
Well, we can definitely talk to the recruiter and see if they can condense some of this work.
I think, yeah. In light of what Glenn just said, I think that would probably be an appropriate ask. Because I think right after Thanksgiving, things just kind of can tend to go sideways. And especially if there are people that have to travel from out of the area. I think his concerns are valid.
I think one of the conversations we have with the full board this month too is the process of interviews. Is it just a full board? And I don't recall, Gloria, whether full board interviewed 17 years ago, or was it
I
subcommittee?
think it was just the executive committee.
I just remember it was at the Marriott.
Yeah.
And there were three candidates that had been recommended, so it wasn't an all day thing, but it was 3 candidates.
I think it would be difficult if we were to have the entire board be on board. It'd just be hard to get 9 people. We can't even get everybody to meetings at the same time. That's on schedule.
But yes, usually it's the executive committee of a board.
Yeah,
All the 20 applicants then they weed them out.
right.
Because I sit in another board that I'm involved in, that's what doing.
Yeah.
If we're gonna select 5 or 4, then I think it comes back, we're gonna bring it back to the board. But yeah, the executive committee is the one that.
Well, that's actually what the consultant was recommending, that
Yes.
they actually do
They
these
do that.
meetings, and then send back 3 to 5. They
Yes.
go to the top candidates, and then then it's really that interview process.
Mhm.
We need to probably have a discussion with the full board, because you'd be making the recommendation.
Yeah.
Rest of them.
So is that first client here, that's a 3 to 5, and that's what comes to the full board, and then you shrink it down maybe to 2 or 3, and you come back to the full board again?
No, I think what they did last time was they ended up selecting 3 candidates. the consultant themselves.
Yeah.
Those three candidates came back to the interview. I think it was, I don't know.
So why do we have two interviews here going, you know? If they're bringing in just three people.
Well, the first interview is done by the consultant. That's the big list of all, they will initially screen all the
It
applicants.
says client initial interviews. We're the client.
In month one.
That's in month four.
That's in week 13.
Yeah,
Which gets me the idea this is the first week in December.
It's probably meant to be EC with the final interviews going to the full board.
Yeah. I think
With the
that's-
final recommendation going to the.
That's the final recommendation?
No, the EC is gonna do the initial interviews, make a recommendation to the board, and then the board will do what's based on.
Yeah, but then the final interviews, it's like. We've had things where you get sometimes 8 or 9 people apply for these and 15 people. It's pretty easy sometimes to weed out 10 and you get them down to 5. I mean, I don't want to get, the two things concern me is I don't want to get this down to where they're getting down, they're really selecting in such a small group. Because then we're boxing ourselves in, they may not know all the details that, they don't know this organization, let's face it. And so, it's good to have 4 or 5 there initially for the board or the executive committee or somebody to look at. But then you do a second round and unless you got somebody that's just standing out, you're probably gonna want to narrow it down to 2 or 3 from there. And I'm a little concerned with 3 of us being up in there, and I'm also concerned with just the 3 of us, what we're having narrowed it down. Yeah. Part of the other problem is week 13, if that's the first week in December, I'm pretty much gone most of that week at where California counties are meeting at San Jose. And so that could be a problem on that. So I guess, we're looking at this without dates on here, and when I'm looking at this, I don't want to get into a bind where Patrick's leaving on the 19th, we gotta pull somebody out of here right now. I'd rather.
You're in good hands by leaving.
Yeah, well, that's,
The agency won't fall apart. If I
Sure. well, and that's where I'm looking at things. I don't want to be rushed to make, this is a big decision to make. And if it has to fill out because of the holidays into January, I'm fine with that. But at the same time, I want to get as much board involvement as possible. Because I don't want the executive committee ended up making most of the decisions and getting it down here. And the choices the board got to rubber stamps.
So you're
Because-
looking at having the entire board then interview the 2 or 3 that we recommend?
I'm just right now pointing out the problems I'm seeing with the timing schedule with the second. And it's a question of whether we want to string that out another month. I don't know if we can compress. I just don't know if we're gonna be able to get a whole lot done in that month of December. And do it effectively where we're inviting people in here and they can't make it. And then they do things on Zoom, and that's never good. And then what about the rest of us? I mean, believe it or not, I have learned that people have lives.
Really?
Yeah, isn't it amazing?
We heard of it.
Well, let me talk with the consultants. Unfortunately, I hoped they could have been here today, but they had previous commitments and they could not attend today. Or be online and via Zoom, so let me get a hold of them. I mean, this ultimately with a recruitment, you guys have all been through this. So we may end up having meetings outside of normal meetings. I mean, obviously, interviews with potential candidates. You don't want to muddy that up with a regular Zoom meeting. That'll probably end up being a special meeting. And it may be best to wait till January, but let's talk to the consultant first. Maybe we can get them to attend the meeting, full board meeting, and talk through some of these concerns and see what they can do to tighten that schedule up. But understand that the holidays do make it more challenging.
So they will reach out to each board member, not just the EC.
You're the stakeholders.
Okay.
All the board members. We want to get feedback, and I'm sure they have questionnaires they send out, ahead of time to get you to think about things that they want to get their feedback on. They'll let them prepare the brochures, the outreach materials, outline, contract and all recruitment structures.
Okay,
Okay.
so you'll get back to us by,
One thing I'll add is, with the schedule, likely based on my review of the schedule right now, weeks 13 and 14 and weeks 15 will likely need to be inverted. Because you can't do a background check in California until you have a conditional offer of employment. So the final interviews would likely need to go before background and reference checks.
Well, I'm sorry, Rick. Right, you're saying you gotta do the final interviews before you do a background check?
You can't do background
And references?
Yeah, we can't do
You
background
can't,
check.
in California, it is illegal to do a background check unless you have a conditional offer of employment.
Or you have consent from the interviewees, right?
I mean, you can ask for the consent. The problem is there is some case law out there that it could be considered coerced in the sense that they can't go on in the process if they don't give the consent. So generally, as a best practices, the background isn't done until you have a conditional offer first.
I know, I've sit on a lot of boards. I know organizations in this county that don't necessarily do it that way. I mean, that they do seek that. But I understand your concern.
and okay, so I have a question with regards to the background check. And also week 11, it's a public record search. Is that different, separate?
Yeah, public records search is just you have like LexisNexis or Westlaw, you can just look somebody up and it pulls up any records that are publicly available. Background checks are usually where you're looking at, credit checks, criminal history checks, more detailed searches of legal records, bankruptcies, things that could be indicators, especially for somebody like a general manager who has such a fiduciary responsibility. You would be looking at, things that would be red flags for a potential compromised individual. So it's more invasive, and you have access to records that are generally not available to the public.
Well, I'll stand corrected on that. I think it's public records is the only one I've seen, although I have seen the request for references go out ahead of a final interview.
Yeah, no, the reference check is okay. You can check references ahead of time. That's not prohibited. It's just the background check itself.
Okay. So Patrick, you will work with the recruiter then to
Yes.
see if we can possibly extend it a little or condense it.
The references should probably go in. Should probably stay in place in week 13, 14.
Yeah.
But the background could be rolled down there to the negotiations. Would that be what you're suggesting?
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay.
Okay. Thank you. All right, so what do we need to do? So,
We're waiting for,
It's just information tonight.
Okay.
If there's any feedback you have, feel free to let me know
Okay.
anytime.
okay, so we provided the input, so we can move on, correct? Okay, moving on to item 5, discussion regarding the Levine Act and request to include the Levine Act disclosure within the authority's agenda. Staff report.
Thank you, Madam President. For this one, it's more an update. We wanted to bring this one to EC before we brought it to the full board to let you know that we did receive a request from board member Sandoval to include within the board's meeting agendas a Levine Act or a Levine Act, depending on how you choose to pronounce it, act disclosure. As you all probably know, it's related to the pay for play issues and campaign contributions and who can participate or basically come before boards such as ours, for, consideration of licenses, permits, or other like land use entitlement issues. For us, it's not as big of an issue because we don't issue a lot of licenses or permits. It does become an issue when we're dealing with leases or, because those could include land use entitlements, or an example could be the sale of Sun Street. That's when it would become more of an issue. But for the upcoming board meeting in September, I'll have a detailed memorandum that I'm going to distribute to the full board and to the public, documenting kind of general background of the Levine Act, what the component requirements are, exemptions, and then a sample disclosure that we could add to our agenda that would address board member Sandoval's request if the board is so inclined.
I have no idea what that is. Can you kind of share with us I don't know what the Levine Act is.
It's.
Sure. It's the Levine Act. It's been around since 1982. But they recently updated it. So new updates went in effect January of this year. And it's referred to as, kind of pay to play. What it does is it limits campaign contributions to those individuals in proceedings involving licensing, permitting, and land use and other land use entitlements before city councils, JPA boards, board of supervisors. And so previously the campaign contribution limit was $250. Anybody donating more than that would be prohibited. It's a 12-month look back and a 12-month look forward from the contribution. As of January 1st this year, that amount increased to $500. So anything more than $500 campaign contribution that's received by an elected official, one would have to be disclosed, and then two, it would prohibit the elected official from participating in any sort of decision involving the individual who made that campaign contribution that exceeded the $500 limit in that, like I said, that limited scope area of licenses, permits, and other land use entitlements.
Okay.
Can I give her an example?
Of a contribution that would disqualify somebody, or
Yeah, just what happened to us in the council.
sure.
Just an example.
Sure. So if a council, example, we use a council member. If a council member receives a campaign contribution of $505, the Levine Act would be triggered. And what that means is that the council member who's received that money, if an individual comes forward before the city council to seek a permit, for example, that city council member would need to disclose that individual has contributed $505 to their campaign and recuse themselves from participating in any sort of decision relating to that individual and that permit. Failure to disclose and failure to recuse, those are individual violations, meaning it's not a violation that would be attributed to the city council or the city. It's an individual violation, so it's individual responsibility. But most jurisdictions have kind of adopted a general kind of disclosure caption that they include in their agendas just as a reminder to elected officials of their duty to disclose and recuse, because it's kind of a two-part process. It's not just a simple recusal as other types of conflicts can be. You have to disclose the nature of it, meaning that you received a campaign contribution from that individual exceeding or individual group business, and that it exceeded the $500 threshold.
Okay,
And then-
can I ask?
Sure, I would add one more thing. So the other thing that they look at too is the timing of the campaign contribution. So for example, if the decision was done September 1st and the campaign contribution was received September 6th, that could still trigger a effectively a clawback, meaning it can result in a nullification of that vote. It's basically to prevent, somebody, from doing a contribution either before their item is being heard or after their item is being heard within that 12-month time period, as in order to receive a pay for play or a favor, so to speak, before the governing body, based on that contribution in favor of their request, depending on what type of request it is.
I'll call you.
Thank you. I mean,
I have to call you. I have a
No
question.
problem. Yeah, I'm always open to questions or concerns regarding this. And like I said, I'll have it's a fairly detailed memo that's going to go out to all the board members and the managers so that everybody has it. Kind of detailing an overview of of what the Levine Act is, the requirements, the exemptions, and a sample disclosure that can be considered. We just wanted to make sure that the EC knew and that we discussed this issue with you guys before we brought it forward to the full board for consideration.
thank you for the explanation, Roy. Patrick?
I just had one question for Roy. Roy, would this apply to public works, construction contracts or any subcontractors that are declared in a public works bid?
So it doesn't apply to the competitive bidding process. It doesn't apply to contracts under $50,000, labor contracts, and contracts between governmental agencies. So those types of contracts have been exempted from the Levine or Levine Act requirements.
Got it. You answered both the questions we had.
Well, this is all news to me, so yeah, to me, it would be difficult to know if you said 12 months prior and 12 months after, if something happens 6 months later, does then a vote then become null and void?
It
Because-
potentially could, yes. Because the goal is kind of to prevent that, the kind of delay, like basically circumventing it by waiting until after the item is considered to provide the campaign contribution. So yeah, it's a 12-month look back, 12-month look forward.
Kind of stays with me that I kind of fund my own campaign, so I don't have to worry about this kind of stuff. Thank you so much. I appreciate it. So
No
we'll-
problem.
we'll-
And then
we'll-
once the board gets the memo, if there's any questions, always feel free to shoot me an email or give me a call.
Okay, thank you. Any other comments from board members? None, seeing none, we'll move it forward then. I mean, our action is, yeah, do what we need to do. And educate the board. So, moving ahead to future agenda items.
All right, so for the month of September, the items you heard today will all be on the agenda. We'll also be getting the annual report will be presented in 2 weeks, as well as the annual operations and environmental compliance update. We'll be introducing our new youth council, and then you will be asked to approve a notice of determination for the environmental documents associated with the Crazy Horse Recycling Center transfer station. So those are the big items coming up for the September meeting. So anything else you'd like to add, subtract, modify?
So the letters NCR stand for the transfer station.
North County Recycling Transfer Station.
Good one, like, what's NCR? To me, it's like no carbon requirements.
North, yeah, it's not even gonna call it North County, because that, it's certainly what the intent was always. Within our original planning documents, North County facility, so.
Okay. Okay, thank you so much. Any other comments from our committee?
No.
No, no. Glenn, we're good? Okay, so we will now adjourn into closed session pursuant to Government Code Section 54957 to confer with General Counsel Roy C. Santos and General Manager CAO Patrick Matthews concerning appointment of public agency employee general manager. Number 2, conference with legal counsel pending litigation pursuant to paragraph 4 of subdivision D of Government Code Section 54956.9, Arsenio Gordon versus Salinas Valley Waste Authority et al. Case number 25 CV 004179.
President Lee, I'd like to just make a comment. Item 7, we do not need, that was a placeholder, but I think we covered most of the stuff that we needed to cover.
So we only have to do the latter.
Right, yeah, because we weren't, as I said, we were unable to get the salt and available today. So,
Okay,
we only have to do number 8. Now, it'll be with, general counsel, Caesar and I.
okay, and that's in the next room,
Yes.
in the cone of silence. we will reconvene at 3:40 PM. Is there anything to report out, Roy?
No reportable action at this time, Madam President.
Thank you. With no further business, I will adjourn our meeting this afternoon at 3:40 PM. Thank you, everybody. Drive safe and go home.
Thank you,
Thank you.
everybody.
Thanks, Roy.
Bye.